Hello and a very warm welcome to this Bitwig tutorial. In this episode I talk about the Popup Browser of Bitwig and some functions that might interest you and that help you maybe to be more productive. Thank you as well to Dreamcatcher who brought up this question that related to this video. Okay, so then let's get started. Okay, if you're in Bitwig and you choose a track and you have your device lane opened, there is this plus sign, and if you left click on this plus sign, the pop-up browser opens. So that is a view that you normally get, or similar. You get a similar view. Depends if it's still the standard browser or if you change something. And the browser is divided in several sections, and one of the sections is the upper section over here. And the upper section contains a search bar where the cursor is blinking over here, where you can type in some stuff. And the tabs over here that are divided in devices, presets, multi-sample, samples, and music. So if you start typing something like delay, for example, you see that the browser is already filtering out everything he finds to something that has a description or name with delay. If there's something over there, you can, on the right side, you can just use the cursor, the arrow buttons, and use the arrow down to select some of those devices. The position and end cursor keys do work as well. If you want to go back to the search bar above, you can just use your mouse and click on it. Or you can just use the S for search and you jump back to the end of the word and you can delete the whole word, for example, and say, okay, I didn't want to have a delay. I wanted to have a reverb. And now you type reverb, go down with the cursor keys, for example, and select your keyword. If you want to select that and you're just moving on your keyboard, you can press enter to select your device and that's it. So let's delete that device again and left click on this plus again. So the same is if you want to search for presets, you go to presets, for example, and type, for example, piano, and then you get all piano presets that are available on your system over all plugins that reports to Bitwig their presets, and then you can use the arrow keys as well again. If you don't use the keyboard for that, so if you just type in piano and then you take the mouse over here and scroll down and just type on one preset or on another preset, for example, then the preset is selected, the instrument is loaded here on a temporary basis. You can preview what you selected, for example. Something like that. And as long you don't press enter or the OK button or double click on the preset, nothing is final, it's just temporary. For example, I click on this grid patch, and then you can pre-listen to this, for example, or you got the way it works. Okay, and the same goes to multi-sample, samples, and music. So deleting everything, you can click over here. If you just typed in something, you go back. And you come back over here, can just use Control A to select everything and delete to clear everything. So there you see the devices that are all plugins that are on your system. Then you have all the presets I told about on your system. Then there are multi-samples, the same. And with every tab you are clicking on, the filter change a little bit. That depends what the tab is offering to you, so you can choose from a variety of filters what you want to get. Same with the multi-samples, same with the samples, and same with the music. Music is something that you can choose for your collection of MP3 waves, FLAC files, or whatever. Samples are the location where you put your samples in, and with the location, you configure the location over here in the settings, and then on the locations over here. And here are, for example, the plugin locations. If you have something on a different path, for example, you can define your music location. If you click on it, you get an explorer and select a directory. And the sound locations, for example, are over here. Okay, let's go back to opening the Popup browser again. So these are the search and the different tabs. So you can select what you want to search for. Okay, and then there is this middle section over here where all the filters are. Every window is a filter over here, and you can see it on the title here: any device type, any device location, any file type. You can choose between, for example, CLAP, VST2, VST3 plugins, any category like audio, FX, distortion, dynamics, hardware thingies, modulation, and so on. And if you can always click on here, so the filter gets cleared for that category. Then you can search for any creators, for example, one of the Air Windows plugins, or from Robert, who is doing the YAR-bridge, the Linux Windows bridge. That is very, very great. Then at least you can click over here on your plugins what you want to select. And when you have, for example, chosen the VST plugins and some filters, and for example, like this, you always can right click over here and clear all filters, and everything is back to the resetted init start. Okay, so the next thing is the right click over here, or over here somewhere in a black area. Here is, if I click right click over here, I select something. That is not really smart, so maybe just use this black area. And what I showed you already is the clear all filters. That clears everything and reset every filter over here. Then you can configure your filter sections over here. So for example, you can deactivate here everything like so, like so. So now you have just, if you're on devices, you have your devices, your different devices, and your plugins. With presets, you can configure that as well to your likings, for example. But I want to have everything back because I want to show you some things. So I want to have everything available. So another one is you can include legacy content. Legacy content is something that is not shown because you don't need it, because there's a newer version of it or a better version of it. So, but you can display it on your plugin lists. Then there is as well the add plugin location, what I already told about that, where you can add a plugin location where there are some more VSTs or CLAP plugins, for example. Then you get a file explorer window where you can select the directory and click OK. And that will put to the settings locations list, for example. Another thing is create new collections and create new smart collections. A collection is nothing else than your favorites, for example. And favorites is something that you can define when I reset all filters or clear all filters. And I think, okay, I should always have a compressor in my favorites. And for example, let me take the other Bitwig compressor, dynamics. So if I click on the favorites, I have some other favorites, the compressor and the dynamics. I could choose something else, for example. I take, for example, the crossover left-right, and now I have my crossover left-right in my favorites. So everything I select here with these stars gets moved in the favorites. Another way you can choose it is right-click over here and add to favorite, for example. You can use some other functions like add in metadata. You normally don't do that, but you can do that as well over here. You can choose, for example, clear all filters and everything else. So this is one favorite. This is one collection. You can create new collections, for example. You can create something like my collection. This is your personal way of creating a favorite. Here's my collections. And you see these little icons over here. There's a little arrow and the little star. And now, because the arrow points to this star, everything, if you look on my collection, there's nothing in there over at the moment. If you now click on something over here on the stars, this will move to your My Collection. So the arrow points always, or the arrow tells you always, if you click on the star over here in the complete list, this will move to this collection that has this arrow on here. You can change this as well, because you said, okay, My Collection normally always only contains these 4 plugins, and I don't want to add something else. You can click on your favorites, right click, and click then set as your target collection. So now, if you watch over here, if you select something like, for example, the band, this gets added to your favorite collection over here. So these are the new collections. Then there are some smart collections, and smart collections, if I clear all filters again, is something that, for example, I want to have all instruments, for example, and I want to have all synth instruments in one place. And I want to select, for example, everything from Bitwig, and for example, everything from UHE. I hold down the control button, and I want to have all these synths available when I click on my new smart collection. So with this filter set, you right click over here, then you select create new smart collection, and then you set my favorite synths, for example. So, and every time you click on my favorite synth, this filter is set automatically. So you get your selection over here. Deleting, for example, collections in smart collection is just selecting them. You don't have a way to delete them via the pop-up menu. You just select it and then hit the delete button over here, or you hit the backspace, not button, key, backspace, the backspace key or the delete key, and then they are deleted. Okay. So if you open up the, with the right click, this pop-up menu again, you see something down there, remember selected filters when adding to an empty instrument track. So, and this is something, if you click over here, this is something, for example, you could just, oh, I deleted that. That was maybe not, let's say I want to add a synth and the Bitwig and the UHE. I create smart collections, my synth, something like that. I select that, and now remember selected filters when adding to an empty instrument track. Okay, so every time if I just add a new instrument track, for example, to have a new track over here, every time I click then on the plus sign, it automatically remembers what you have chosen the last time or what you have saved with remember. So every time you click on an empty track, you get this selection. Because I'm clear all filters, because I'm experimenting a lot, I always have to have everything available. Even if it doesn't make sense, I want to have that. And the same time, for example, my favorite synth, I just add something like, let's take the polymer. There's as well something if you click, if there's already a device over here, and if you click on the right side over here, you could add something, and even then there is something like remember selected filters when inserting audio FX. Normally there's a filter by default from Bitwig, but I overwritten that because it could be that I want to load several synths in one row, and so I don't have to click like give me any device type or click on instrument type. So I overwritten that just with remember selected filters when inserting, so I get everything. Maybe this is not helpful for you because you said, no, I don't want to have two synths in one row. For me, it's like I'm experimenting, like having two synths in parallel and deactivating one, activating the other, and vice versa. So I'm a bit quicker in selecting everything. So that is very helpful for me. Maybe not very helpful for you, but only that you know that you can save the state when you're inserting something, that you have like a default selection ongoing. And the same is with audio tracks, for example. Maybe I create a new audio track for that. When you're selecting that, everything, because it's me, but there's also a remember select filters when adding to an empty audio track. There are some filters or some conditions, because here's an empty audio track. If I use it over here and select some, for example, a synth, and want to add something else, you see over here, remember selected files when inserting audio FX. There's nothing with empty audio track or something. This is inserting audio FX somewhere. So there are different conditions when you open the Popup browser, and you can set for each of those conditions, can you set your view if you want to have your favorites, everything, specific device type like audio FX, instrument node FX, and so on and so forth. So that you should know when you work with the Popup browser. Okay. So that's everything from the Popup browser over here in the middle in the filter section. Then there is down below here something like, I call it the info bar of the Popup browser. And if you click on something, you get some information about that because it's an info bar. Then you see it's a chorus device, you see it's from Bitwig, you see it's a modulation category, and the creator is Bitwig, for example. If I go over to the presets, and maybe I should clear all filters, go over to the presets and select, for example, something like this. You see it's the name, it's the base, this is the location where it is. Then the synthesizer is Hive, and the creator is, I'm not really sure if that's, the creator is Tal Dumbledog. Okay, no, that's correct. The next one, the name, this is from Bitwig, the package where it is. Then it's a delay, then category delay, or its name, it's the device's name, it's delay. Then it's a category delay, and it's from Genesis. And these are the tags that are given with that preset, for example. Okay, I never clicked on that. So it sets the filter delay. I pin the delay. Okay, I can pin the filters. Oh, I didn't know that. So there's some more hidden. That's a secret feature. I just discovered that. Okay, you can click on those and then you can select that. And I think the same goes with the tags. Yeah, exactly. So you can just pin those tags so you get everything that is soft, for example. And if you click on it again, then it's yeah, another secret. Okay. And with the presets or the devices in general, it's if you select something, let me select something that is useful, an instrument where I can use my keyboard over there. If you select something like this one, you see the device is loaded and the preset is loaded. So if I tap on a key on my keyboard, you hear it like that. For example, if I use another thing, maybe I go down to Bitwig devices. I use this, the device is loaded and I can pre-listen to that. For example, device is loaded and I can pre-listen to that without finally selecting it. If I want to select it, I can hit the enter key, I can click on OK or can double click on it. Then it's selected and it's in my device lane. So, and additionally, if I go over here, the thing is, if you have something going on in your arrangement, and I want to go to presets, for example, sorry, and I go to Bitwig, for example, and just take these one, everything gets loaded and I can play it, for example, and you want to see your arrangement, you can collapse this here. You still are on this list, you collapse it, you can set your play cursor, for example, can play your arrangement. Here I have nothing in here, and can use your cursor keys to go down and watch this info area over here. You see which preset is selected. And you can just experiment which one suits better for your track and so on. And you always can set it on the right place and start over here without having the whole browser in your sight, for example. So another thing is with multi-samples and samples, because if you select something with the multi-samples, you can normally play. I used now some. Here you can play it as well. And with the samples, it's like if you start clicking on it, it normally gets played if you select it. The device is loaded, you see it, everything is temporary. So you could collapse it as well and select it. For example, if you don't want that if you click on a sample, it is played, there is this little icon with the mouse and the speaker over here. If you deactivate that, you can click around and nothing is played, for example. You always can click here on the right side to play it. You can click over here on the right side to play that sample. You see a little bit an analyzer over here. And there's as well an icon with a note on it. And this note says, when you have your, let me just activate that again and collapse it. When you activate your track and you're searching for a sample and you want to hear that sample in the tempo of your track, so it's automatically stretched. I use now my arrow keys it gets stretched to the tempo. Another one. Could increase that. And it gets looped as well. Select another one. You could use these arrow keys or arrow buttons, for example, to go down. You always see here the information, what it is. And you could disable the preview of the selected item over here. But I always find it very interesting what is loaded, what it is. Maybe sometimes... Okay, let me stop that. Sometimes it's a sampler, sometimes it's a synth or anything else. And often enough, I find it too interesting to see what it is. Because sometimes I don't want to have a synth or something. Okay, if you choose a sample, it's mostly a sampler. But that's another option to use that. So that's our pop-up browser with the search bar, the devices tab, not the devices, the different tabs with devices, presets, multisamples, samples, music, and so on. Then you have the filter section over here where you can create collections that are your favorites, for example, where you select them over here. And then we had this info area down below where you can pre-listen. Let me select the samples again. Where you can pre-listen everything, and when you pre-listen, I forgot to say that there is a little volume slider. If the sample is far too loud, you can adjust that a little bit. So it's... I should play that. Wait. So you can turn the volume to your likings, what you need for your browser, for example. Okay. There are really nice features and very useful features for this browser. One drawback for me personally, because I love to use the keyboard, and it's always like I don't want to switch between mouse and keyboard and vice versa, because that breaks something in my workflow, and you all know that workflow is something very important, because some ideas you have, they're really like going away in seconds. So it's always good to know how you use your stuff, and how you get quick to your things that you need. In the case of the browser, it's like if you're on your arrangement, on your arranger, and listening to some stuff, and you think, oh, I need, for example, on this track, I need maybe another EQ or something. So with your mouse, you go down to the device lane, open device lane, then open this one. Then good thing is the search field is already selected. But if you start filtering, okay, I need an EQ, this is audio effect, the EQs, there is my EQ, I take this one, okay. And this takes very long, and sometimes for like these flashy ideas, you lost your idea already. So what I do is normally I'm on the arranger, I say, okay, I need something else. I press a D for device, and then B for browser, and I have my browser, and then I say, okay, EQ, zack, zack. And then I have my EQ, then I can start. This is far quicker for me than using the mouse, or switching between mouse and, for example, D closes it again. I'm on the arranger, then I press D, then I move the mouse, open the browser, then, for example, I start scrolling down here. Where is delay? Delay is with D, where is D? D is over here, and then you can double click, or you just can use OK, and then you have your delay. And meanwhile, you forgot everything about your idea. So, and one thing you should, maybe you know that already, I just tell that in this tutorial again. Bitwig is divided in several areas. They are active right now because I clicked over here. The whole arranger is active, and sometimes shortcuts are dependent to areas. So if I'm over here, device lane is already open. I can't press D. Nothing happens. I have to press D, and you see the focus is going over to the device lane. If I click on the arranger again, the device lane loses the focus and the arranger has the focus. So shortcuts are dependent to areas. So I press D again. If the device lane is not open, I press D. The device lane opens and gets the focus. And then I can press B for browser. So the browser opens. I can press D again, so the device lane loses the focus again. And I think O is for, no, L is for the arranger. So if I'm on the device lane, press L again. No, this is the looper. See, O is the device lane. DO is jumping back and forth. If I maybe create a clip over here, I'm on the clip, so you see it maybe a little bit clearer. DO. If I use clip name, very nice clip name. Device lane, O for arranger. Device, arranger. Maybe that's something you can memorize better. In German it's Eselsbrücke. Don't know the English word for that. Okay, this is something that is very, very useful and very helpful and helps me very much. And the drawback I was talking about is that the arranger is, not the arranger, the browser, you always need a mouse, or in most cases, or in too much cases, you need a mouse. And I think there should be some more love in the browser so you can really navigate through the whole browser back and forth and everything with only with your keys. You could move with the arrow keys up and down over here, and you can use the arrow keys left and right to just go over here, for example. That's really great and everything, and then you can select with the enter key and then you have it. But now the next thing is coming. I want to add a device after this device. So I could use the arrow keys left and right, but I only can move over here. So if I'm on the device itself and press B again for the browser, I get the presets. But I don't want to have presets. I want to go over here to this plus sign. So now I have to use the mouse again and open, for example, a delay. So I can move now between the devices, and I can open the browser with B, and it opens up the presets, but I'm not able to jump between the devices or to the end of all devices. I don't know how. Maybe there's a way. I can select both by holding down the shift. And this is something that blocks me a little bit from my workflow. I always have to move my hand to the mouse over here, then click to this plus button and select something else. For example, that doesn't make sense. But anyway, so I would love if there is a little more love to the usage of the browser, to the workflow, to increase or to be able to speed up my workflow. I don't think I'm very special at this because, as you all know, ideas are very, very quick away. And if you just have your muscle memory trained with everything, you just can open a browser. I want to be exactly over there and add it over here, for example, and then I want to have a reverb, I use it and it's over here. And there's a little bit more, because if you open, you see it, if I open, for example, here, and I take another synth, right? Didn't save that, want to save. Now you use, for example, phase 4. Where is it? I didn't write that correct. Phase 4. So it opens, and it opens over here. What the hell, you know? Now you have to scroll to see your device. You should, if I add it over here, normally I want to have the behavior that I see the whole device, for example. That's something I always think about when opening something over here. Okay, I have to use that, or I have to go with the mouse over here and use the scroll wheel, or I'm over here with the mouse and use the Alt to move that around and shift that around. And that's something, it would be very nice if we have that in Bitwig, a little bit more help from the computer, from the software, to speed up the workflow a little bit. So I think that's all I wanted to tell you. It's a little bit a longer video, but there are some things that maybe not so obvious, and even if you're a longer Bitwig user, you may not recognize that, and it's helpful for you. I don't know. Maybe if you know something about the shortcuts that you can use, leave me a comment, or if you want to know something, or in any ways, just leave a thumb, a comment. I'm always happy to hear about and from you. And so that's it. I hope you liked that video, and I hope I see you soon again. Stay healthy. See you. Ciao, ciao.